My name is Allison Reed. I was 29 when Mason Cole asked me for space. And for 3 days, I was foolish enough to believe that was all he wanted. He texted me on a Tuesday night, while I was standing over the stove, stirring pasta sauce, and wondering why he had not come home yet. I just need some space. Please don't text me for a while. No fight. No warning. No slam doors. No dramatic breakup speech. Just one message that made the whole apartment feel colder. I stared at my phone. Sauce bubbling behind me. The wooden spoon still in my hand. I read it once. Then again. Then a third time, hoping the words would rearrange themselves into something less final. I called him. No answer. A few minutes later, another text appeared. I'm okay. I just need to think. I'm staying somewhere for a few days. Somewhere. Not with a friend. Not at a hotel. Not even a real explanation. Just somewhere. Mason and I had been together almost 2 years. We had lived together for 1. He was charming in that effortless way that made people forgive him before he even apologized. He was funny. Warm. Quick, with compliments. And for a long time, I thought he was safe. That was the word I used for him. Safe. He worked in marketing for a mid-sized firm downtown. And for the first year, he loved the job in a normal way. He complained about meetings, laughed about office gossip, came home tired, and collapsed beside me on the couch. Then, Vivian Hart became his boss. At first, I barely noticed. He talked about her like anyone talks about a good manager. Vivian actually listens. Vivian knows how to lead people. Vivian sees potential in me. I wanted to be proud of him. I wanted to be the kind of girlfriend who didn't turn every woman's name into a threat. But after a while, Vivian was in every conversation. Vivian loved his campaign idea. Vivian thought he had executive presence. Vivian said he should dress more confidently for client meetings. Then came the new shirts. Then the expensive cologne. Then the late nights, when I teased him about suddenly caring so much about cufflinks. He laughed and kissed my forehead. Relax. Ali. She's married. As if that was supposed to comfort me. A week before everything fell apart, Mason mentioned a coastal retreat. He said the team had been under pressure, and Vivian wanted a few people to unwind near the beach after a brutal quarter. Are you going? I asked. Maybe, he said too casually. Or I might just take a couple days to clear my head. That phrase stuck with me. Clear my head. By then, every simple question made him defensive. If I asked what time he would be home, he acted like I had accused him of a crime. If I asked who was going on the retreat, he said I was being insecure. If I asked why, his phone was always face down. He told me I was imagining things, and maybe I was. That is the cruelest part of suspicion. You start questioning the other person, then somehow end up questioning yourself. So when he asked for space, I gave it to him. The first night, I slept badly. The second night, I kept checking my phone. By the third day, I had almost convinced myself he was just overwhelmed and would come home with an apology. Flowers. And that sheepish smile that used to make me forgive too much. Then, my friend Brooke messaged me. Hey, I'm really sorry to ask this, but isn't this Mason? She sent 2 photos. They were taken from a distance, probably from a balcony or beach bar. The first showed Mason walking barefoot in the sand, holding a drink, laughing, like he didn't have a girlfriend waiting in a silent apartment 2 hours away. Beside him was Vivian Hart. Her hand rested low on his back. In the second photo, they were closer. Too close. Her body angled toward his face turned toward her with that soft, private smile I knew too well. Brooke sent one more message. I didn't want to get involved, but I thought you deserved to know. I sat down slowly. The apartment was quiet except for the refrigerator humming and the clock ticking above the doorway. I zoomed in on the picture. not because I needed more proof, but because part of me still wanted to be wrong. Same watch, same blue shirt, same man who told me he needed space. Only now I understood what kind of space he meant. Space from me. Space to lie. Space to stand on a beach with another woman and pretend consequences lived somewhere far away. I didn't text him. I didn't call. I just sat there, holding my phone, feeling something inside me go still. Not break, not burn, just go still. And that was when I knew I wasn't going to beg him for the truth. I was going to let the truth find everyone else. I stared at those photos for nearly an hour. The longer I looked at them, the more pieces of the puzzle slid into place. The overtime, the sudden confidence, the expensive cologne, the defensive answers, the unexplained distance, the constant praise for Vivian. Every warning sign I had pushed aside because I loved him suddenly looked obvious. I hated that feeling. Not because Mason had betrayed me, because I had spent months convincing myself not to trust my own instincts. Around midnight, I called Brooke. She answered immediately. Allison. Yeah. There was a pause. I'm sorry. I looked at the photos again. Did you see anyone else with them? No. Just the two of them. Just the two of them. I closed my eyes. That was all I needed. After we hung up, I sat alone in the dark living room. The obvious thing would have been calling Mason, demanding answers, demanding explanations, demanding honesty from someone who had already chosen dishonesty. But what would that accomplish? He would deny it, or minimize it, or explain it away. People rarely confess when they're still benefiting from the lie. Then I remembered something. Months earlier, Mason had shown me pictures from a company holiday party. Vivian had been standing beside a tall man with dark hair. Her husband, Daniel. I remembered Mason mentioning him once. He's actually a really good guy. Funny how people say things like that, while secretly helping destroy someone's marriage. I picked up my laptop. For a few minutes, I debated with myself. Maybe I should stay out of it. Maybe it wasn't my place. Maybe I should just walk away. But every time I imagined Daniel sitting at home completely unaware while his wife vacationed with my boyfriend, my stomach twisted. If I were him, I'd want to know. Eventually, I found his social media. His profile was mostly private, but not entirely. There were family photos, beach trips, birthday parties, pictures of 2 young children. The kind of photos that make infidelity feel even uglier. Real people, real lives, real damage waiting to happen. I stared at the screen for a long time. Then, I typed, "Hello Daniel, I'm sorry to send you this message. I believe you deserve to know something. These photos were taken earlier this week at the coastal resort where your wife is staying. The man with her is my boyfriend, Mason Cole. I don't know what you want to do with this information, but I thought you deserved to see it." I attached both photos. Read the message twice, then hit send. My finger hovered over the mouse afterward, almost expecting lightning to strike. Nothing happened. The message simply disappeared into cyberspace. And, just like that, the truth was no longer mine alone. I shut the laptop, went to bed, and for the first time in days, slept. Not well, but enough. The next morning, I woke to 3 missed calls. 1 from Mason, 2 from an unknown number. I ignored both. An hour later, Mason texted, "Can we talk?" No explanation. No apology. No concern for how I felt. Just a request. I stared at the screen, then set the phone down. A second message arrived. "Please." I ignored that too. By afternoon, Brooke called again. Her voice sounded nervous. "Something's happening." "What do you mean?" "I heard from someone staying at the resort." I sat up straighter. "What happened?" "There was some kind of huge argument in the parking lot." I felt my pulse quicken. Brooke continued. "Apparently Vivian's husband showed up. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The silence felt heavy." "He actually came there?" I asked. "That's what I heard." I looked out the apartment window. Rain had started falling, thin gray lines streaking down the glass. What happened after that? Nobody knows exactly. But people were talking about shouting, crying. A lot of attention. I thanked her and ended the call. Then I sat quietly, not celebrating, not smiling, just processing. Because this wasn't revenge, it was consequence. Late that night, Mason finally sent another message. "We need to talk." I didn't answer. A minute later, another text arrived. "You saw something, didn't you?" Still, nothing from me. Then, "It's not what it looks like." I laughed. Actually laughed. Alone in my living room. Because there it was. The most predictable sentence in the history of cheating. It's not what it looks like. As if photographs required interpretation. As if a romantic beach walk with your boss could somehow become a business meeting if you twisted reality hard enough. I put the phone down. A third message arrived. "Please let me explain when I get back." Back. The word irritated me. Back implied there was still an us. Back implied he expected to return to the life he had walked away from. Back implied he still believed he had choices. He didn't. Not anymore. The next 2 days became a blur. Mason called repeatedly. I never answered. Friends texted. I ignored most of them. I spent my time doing something surprisingly practical. I packed every shirt, every pair of shoes, every charger, every forgotten drawer item, everything that belonged to Mason went into boxes. By the end of the second day, the guest room looked like a storage unit. I stood there, staring at the stacks. 2 years of a relationship reduced to cardboard boxes. Funny how quickly a life can be reorganized. On the third evening, I called a locksmith. The locks were changed before sunset. As the locksmith worked, he smiled politely. "Moving." Something like that. When he left, I held the new keys in my hand. Small pieces of metal. Simple. Final. A few hours later, another message appeared. This one wasn't from Mason. It was from Daniel, Vivian's husband. The subject line contained only 2 words. "Thank you." My heart skipped. I opened the message. "Thank you for sending the photos?" I had suspicions for months, but no proof. "You didn't owe me anything, but you helped me finally see the truth. I'm sorry you're going through this as well. Take care of yourself." That was it. No anger. No interrogation. No demands. Just gratitude. The message somehow made everything feel more real. 2 strangers connected by the same betrayal. 2 people who had trusted someone they loved. And 2 people now standing on opposite sides of the same collapse. I closed the email, then looked around the apartment. The silence felt different now. Not lonely. Peaceful. For the first time since Mason asked for space, I realized something important. I wasn't waiting for him to come back anymore. I was waiting for him to discover there was nothing left to come back to. 3 days later, Mason finally came home, or at least he tried to. I was sitting on the couch, reading, when I heard footsteps outside the apartment. Then came the familiar sound of a key sliding into the lock. A second later, silence. Another attempt, then another. I closed my book. The key scraped uselessly against the mechanism. A few seconds later, someone knocked. Hard. "Allison." I didn't move. Another knock. "Allison." What the hell? I slowly stood and walked toward the door. His voice sounded frustrated, confused, almost offended, as if he couldn't imagine a world where he wasn't automatically welcome. I stopped on the other side of the door. "My key isn't working." I leaned against the wall. "That's because I changed the locks." Silence. Then, "You what?" "I changed the locks." His voice immediately sharpened. "Are you serious right now?" "Very." A longer silence followed. I imagined him standing there, suitcase in hand, trying to figure out how control had slipped away so quickly. Finally, he spoke again. "Open the door." "No." "Allison." "No." The firmness in my own voice surprised me. For weeks I had felt confused. What? Lost. Now I felt none of those things, just clarity. I deserve an explanation. I actually laughed. The sound echoed through the apartment. "Mason." "That's funny." "What?" "You disappeared for days. You ignored my calls. You lied to me. You spent a beach vacation with another woman. And somehow you think You're the one who deserves an explanation. Silence. Then a softer voice. It's not what you think. There it was again. The phrase. The script. The desperate attempt to rewrite reality. I walked closer to the door. Vivian's hand was around your waist. It wasn't like that. Oh. We were talking. On the beach? Yes. Alone? He hesitated. That hesitation told me everything. Answer the question. Yes. I smiled sadly. 2 years together, and he still didn't understand that the truth usually reveals itself in the pauses, not the words. The pauses. Allison. Please open the door. No. I love you. The words hit differently than they once would have, not because they hurt, because they sounded empty. Like hearing a favorite song after learning the singer never meant any of it. If you loved me, we wouldn't be having this conversation. Another silence. Then I heard what sounded like him rubbing his face. A nervous habit. I made mistakes. Mistakes. I shook my head. Taking the wrong exit is a mistake. Forgetting a birthday is a mistake. Having an affair requires planning. He didn't answer. For nearly 30 seconds neither of us spoke. Finally, he said something unexpected. Can we at least talk face to face? I considered it, then unlocked the deadbolt. Not because I wanted reconciliation, because I wanted closure. I opened the door several inches but left the security chain attached. Mason stood there holding a duffel bag. For a second I barely recognized him. His hair was messy. His eyes were bloodshot. His usual confidence seemed gone. The man standing outside looked exhausted. Good. Actions should be heavy. He stared at me. I stared back. Neither of us spoke. Then his eyes filled with tears. Real tears. Not dramatics. Not forced. Just regret. Finally arriving. Ellie. I felt nothing. That realization shocked me. Weeks earlier, seeing him cry would have broken my heart. Now, it barely moved me. What happened? He asked quietly. I blinked. What happened? He nodded. How did everything fall apart so fast? I almost smiled. There was something strangely revealing about the question. He genuinely believed everything had fallen apart recently. He didn't understand it had been happening for months. Maybe longer. The relationship ended when you started lying. His shoulders dropped. It wasn't supposed to happen. Yet it did. We were working together. You vacationed together. It wasn't planned. I raised an eyebrow. The hotel reservations probably disagree. He looked away, caught. Again. For several seconds. He stared at the floor. Then finally said the words I had been expecting. Vivian told me she was leaving her husband. There it was. The fantasy. The promise. The story. Nearly every affair seems built on. I laughed softly. Not cruelly. Just because it sounded so predictable. And did she? His silence answered. I crossed my arms. Didn't think so. Mason wiped at his eyes. You don't understand. No. Mason. I looked directly at him. I understand perfectly. That's the problem. He flinched. Good. Truth should sting. For a moment he seemed ready to argue. Then his energy disappeared. He leaned against the wall. Defeated. What happens now? The question sounded genuine. Like he had finally realized there was no hidden escape route. No dramatic speech. No romantic reunion. No reset button. Your things are packed. His eyes widened. You packed everything. Yes. I'll bring the boxes out tomorrow. The reality, visibly, landed on him. This wasn't a fight. This wasn't a temporary separation. This was the end. Allison. No. He swallowed hard. Then asked quietly. Did you send the photos? I held his gaze. Yes. His expression changed instantly. Pain became anger. Regret became blame. For the first time, all evening, he looked like the man who had lied to me. Why would you do that? I almost couldn't believe the question, because Daniel deserved to know. You ruined everything. The words exploded from him. I stared, then shook my head. No. You ruined everything. His jaw tightened. My career is gone. My reputation is destroyed. Vivian's life is falling apart. I listened calmly, then said the one thing he needed to hear. None of that happened because of me. His mouth opened, closed, opened again. No words came out, because deep down he knew I was right. The photos didn't create the affair. The truth didn't create the betrayal. The affair had already existed. The betrayal had already happened. I had simply turned on the light. And people rarely enjoy what they see in the light. For several moments we stood there in silence. Then I gently pushed the door closed. Goodbye. Mason. His hand touched the frame. Please. I met his eyes one final time. The man I had loved was already gone. Maybe he had been gone for months. Maybe I had just been the last person to notice. Then I closed the door. The lock clicked. A small sound, but it felt enormous. Outside. I heard him stand there for another minute. Then, footsteps. Then the elevator. Then silence. Real silence. The kind that arrives when a chapter finally ends. The morning after Mason left, I expected to feel devastated. Instead, I felt strangely calm. Not happy. Not triumphant. Just lighter. Like I had been carrying a heavy backpack for months, and only now realized it was gone. I made coffee, opened the curtains, sat by the window, and for the first time, in weeks, I wasn't checking my phone every 5 minutes. I wasn't wondering where Mason was. I wasn't wondering who he was texting. I wasn't wondering whether another late meeting was actually a late meeting. That constant anxiety had disappeared overnight, and I hadn't even realized how exhausting it had become until it was gone. A few days later, my phone buzzed. A text from an old mutual friend named Derek. He worked at the same company as Mason and Vivian. Dumb. Things are bad over here. I stared at the message, then replied. What happened? His answer came almost immediately. HR got involved. I leaned back in my chair. Apparently Daniel hadn't simply confronted Vivian. After discovering additional messages and evidence on her phone, he had contacted the company's human resources department. The situation escalated fast. Very fast. According to Derek, rumors spread through the office within a day. People whispered in hallways. Meetings became uncomfortable. Managers stopped making eye contact. Everyone knew something serious was happening. No one wanted to say it out loud, but everyone knew. A week later, Derek sent another update. Vivian's on leave. I read the text twice, then set the phone down. Not because I felt guilty, because it was sad. A talented woman, a successful career, a family, a marriage, all of it collapsing. Not because of one photograph, because of the choices made long before the photograph existed. A few days after that, another message arrived. This one surprised me. It was from Daniel. Just wanted to thank you again. I opened the email. His message was longer this time. He explained that he had filed for divorce. Vivian was moving out. Their children were starting therapy. The situation was painful. But he finally felt like he could stop questioning his own sanity. That sentence stayed with me. Stop questioning his own sanity. I understood exactly what he meant. When someone lies to you long enough, you start doubting yourself. Your instincts, your judgment, your reality. The truth hurts, but confusion hurts longer. Near the end of his email, Daniel wrote, I know this probably doesn't mean much, but you gave me clarity. I appreciate that. I stared at the screen for several moments, then finally replied, you gave me clarity too. Take care of yourself and your children. That was the last conversation we ever had, and honestly, it felt right. Two strangers, connected briefly by the same betrayal, then moving on with their lives. A week later, Derek texted again. This time, there was no ambiguity. Vivian resigned. I wasn't surprised. Neither was I surprised when he added, Mason's gone too. Apparently, the company had quietly restructured several departments. Official language, corporate language, the kind that sounds polite while escorting people out the door. Translation: Mason lost his job. The same job he had risked everything for. I stared at the message for a long time, then deleted it. Not because I didn't care, because it wasn't my business anymore. That chapter was over. The following month, Mason tried contacting me one last time. The message arrived late at night. I know you probably hate me. I didn't answer. A few minutes later, I never stopped loving you. Still nothing. Then the final message, I wish I could go back and fix it. I read those words twice. Not because I was tempted, because they reminded me of something important. People often miss the difference between regret and accountability. Regret is wishing the consequences would disappear. Accountability is accepting them. Mason regretted losing everything, but that didn't change what he chose when he thought he could have both. I never replied. And after that, he stopped trying. Months passed, slowly. Life became normal again. Work got busier. I started seeing friends more often. I accepted invitations instead of staying home. I laughed more, slept better, breathed easier. One Saturday afternoon, I took down the last photo of Mason and me. The frame had been sitting on a shelf for months. I wasn't keeping it out of sentimentality. I had simply forgotten it was there. I looked at the picture for a moment. 2 smiling people. One of them no longer existed, or maybe never had. Then I placed the photo in a box and moved on. Not dramatic. Not symbolic. Just finished. A few mutual friends eventually shared updates. Apparently, Mason had moved back in with his parents, temporarily. Vivian relocated to another city after the divorce became final. Some people said they were still together. Others said they weren't speaking anymore. I never asked. I never cared enough to find out. The details didn't matter. The ending already had. One evening, nearly 4 months after everything happened, Brooke called. How are you really doing? I looked around my apartment. The walls had been repainted. A new couch sat in the corner. Fresh plants filled the windows. The place felt different. Like mine. I'm good. She laughed. No. Seriously? I smiled. I am serious. And for the first time, I realized it was true. I wasn't pretending. I wasn't healing. I was healed. After we hung up, I carried a glass of wine onto the balcony. The city lights shimmered below. Cars moved through the streets. People hurried home. Life continued. Exactly as it always does. I sat there thinking about everything that had happened. How quickly trust can disappear. How easy it is to ignore warning signs when love is involved. How difficult it can be to trust yourself after someone spends months teaching you not to. But I also thought about something else. Strength. Not the loud kind. Not screaming. Not revenge. Not public humiliation. Just quiet strength. The kind that allows you to walk away when staying would be easier. The kind that refuses to accept lies simply because the truth hurts. People often think revenge is dramatic. That it involves shouting, exposing people online, breaking things, or making scenes. But the most powerful revenge I ever experienced was much quieter. It was simply refusing to protect someone from the consequences of their own actions. I didn't destroy Mason's life. I didn't destroy Vivian's marriage. I didn't ruin anyone's career. The truth did that. All I did was stop helping them hide from it. A warm breeze drifted across the balcony. I closed my eyes for a moment, then smiled, because the irony wasn't lost on me. Mason had asked for space. In the end, I gave him exactly what he wanted. More space than he ever imagined. And honestly, it turned out to be exactly what I needed too.